Hey everybody, welcome to Future Salespeople's weekly sales round robin. I'm Andrew Voislavic, joined by my co-host and co-founder, Alex Guest.
Hey everyone, thanks for having us again.
Yes, thanks for coming back. We sincerely appreciate it and sincerely appreciate all the views, the likes, and the comments from the previous videos. This week, I know we're coming up to the holidays, Alex, but we've got a doozy of a subject for our kind viewers. And this week, what we're going to be talking about is what should you be looking for when you're hiring a sales leader?
I think this makes a lot of sense. You usually see a lull in Q4. People are seeing the slowdown. They're not hiring new salespeople, sales leadership. So come Q1, Q2, people, especially new businesses, startups, are going to be taking a look at getting another sales leader in the door. So hopefully we can help them, because I think it's one of the hardest hires to make.
No, I think so too, right? And, for a lot of the companies we work with, a lot of the executives we partner with very closely, they don't have a sales background, so they struggle with trying to identify what a sales leader could and should look like for their organization. And that's really the focus of this vlog, this video podcast today. So let's get right to it. So, Alex,
start things off.
Yeah, let's go.
So as we started talking about this, one of the things that I wanted to bring up early and often was having an honest assessment of your needs. As you're looking for this new sales leader, you need to be very clear about what your organization needs, because that drives the type of person that you're looking for, their background and experience, what success looks like in their role. And you can't optimize for more than one thing, really. It might have features of somebody that can bleed into one of these other two types, but if you're looking for somebody that can build, scale, and increment all at the same time, it's not going to go well. So what I mean by building, maybe more straightforward here, is building something from scratch. Whether you are starting a sales team for the first time, or you have inbound under control, but you're looking to build an outbound team, you want to make sure that that person has experience building, because just because somebody has been a sales leader in the past does not mean they've ever built before. And building energy is a little different. Not everybody's got it. So if you expect somebody to build and they can't, it's not going to go well. Second is scale. So scaling is really taking something that exists today and then making sure that you can add players to that. You can add growth and efficiency at the same time. And then finally, increment is taking an already scaled system and then making sure that you can increment and add value over time. It's not going to be these big swings, these big jumps in productions. Rather, it's going to be kind of these more base level efficiencies that are going to add up over time. And I see these as three totally different types of leaders. Again, people can have qualities of all three, but you need to determine what you want, because that's going to be part of how you present that out in market when you put out that job listing.
So what I'm hearing is you don't want to hire for a generalist of all of the above. You want to find the particular specialist who has attributes of all the others, but the specialty to really impact the needs of that organization is what should be hired and what should be reflected in the job posting, job descriptions. Does that sound about right to you, Alex?
You've got it. I think it's rare that any organization would ever need all three of these things at the same time. If they did, they're certainly not going to come back to the same person or the same role.
Oof, that's a very valid point. I love it.
So on the honest presentation of those needs, I'll tell you a little story about myself. I have this overarching rule that anytime a recruiter reaches out to me about a potential position, I will respond to them. In that, about 2 years ago, I had an organization that's going through an acquisition right now. They wanted me to join their sales leadership team. I told them my requirements, one of which was that I'm not a bag carrying rep anymore. I'll join the leadership team, but I won't be doing any selling. They initially said that that was the case, but when I had my first conversation with them over the phone, they quickly said that I would need to prove out this new product sales method by selling it myself and then removing myself out of sales through that success to make my way into leadership. This left a bad taste in my mouth. They lied to me, essentially. I think they knew what they needed. They knew they needed a builder, but they didn't want to pay for someone that could scale or increment their business and join their leadership team. So wasted my time. When you are looking to fill that role, when you've determined your own honest assessment of what you need, you should look at things like the traits of that person. We put all of these different metrics together in our role profiles. And you need to understand that traits can have drawbacks. If somebody has a lot of drive and a lot of intelligence, you need to expect that they're probably not going to be in that role or want to be in that role for very long. Then your responsibilities for that role need to be clearly defined based off of what you're looking. Builders build, scalers scale. And then finally, your success metrics are based off of that. You cannot expect someone who's incrementing success to drive as much impact as somebody that's building for the first time. So making sure that this all comes together, not only in the way that you present that role, but then once that role comes in, you need to be setting them up for success.
It's so interesting, right? So I appreciate everything you said. And I'm going back to that personal example that you gave. No matter where you are or the particular focus, I wonder in which any of these situations with these rowdies actually exist in which you need to be a player coach. Like how often, like I know this could be a whole other tangent and we're not prepared for that. Save it for a whole other later day, but like how often does the player coach actually work out when it comes to building, scaling, or incrementing a sales organization? I digress. We'll move on, but that's just,
I mean, maybe quick answer on that. Sales leaders should always be some degree of player coach. They should always know more about the industry, the process, the buyers, the objections, the responses. If they just come in, they get airlifted by a VC or an investor, and they don't care to learn about the process and the people, and they're not willing to get their hands a little dirty, that's probably a red flag. So I think it needs to be in there, but anytime you bill a sales leadership position as somebody that really just needs to come in and sell first, it's just dishonest, and it doesn't pass well. And I will never consider working for that organization again, because they wasted my time and they proved that they're dishonest.
Time is a valuable commodity, as we all know. Well, hey, no, I appreciate that, right? So you're sharing with us, honest assessment of your needs. That's really the starting point when it comes to hiring your sales leader that is a good fit for your organization, trying to get you onto that trajectory. And I want to start talking about fit and match for your organization. And, starting to think about the needs of the business is one thing, but once you start to ascertain what those are, then you start thinking further about what does the ideal match or fit look like for our business. And for me, and these candidly aren't necessarily in order, but for me, these are really the key things when it comes down to when you're trying to ascertain or determine fit between you and a potential sales leader. The first thing that I would really want to understand if I was a new organization trying to see if this sales leader could be a good fit for us is, how familiar are they with our buyer context, right? So are they selling to our ideal customer profile? Have they sold to similar challenges? Have they gone ahead and tried to go ahead, enter the organization, tried this type of messaging or communicate with this type of individual before? What is their experience? What has their success been look like there? The second one for me, that when I think about trying to find the right fit, that right puzzle piece for our organization, is actually sales process is a bigger piece for me than actual industry itself. In sales process, Alex, viewer, all of our friends, is something more grandiose than we're going to go ahead and have a discovery conversation. We're going to have a second conversation. We're going to qualify you. We're going to go ahead and close you. It's much more than that. It's, hey, how similar are your sales cycles? Are you selling a 6-month sales cycle or are you selling a 2-month sales cycle? How large are your contract values? Is your ACV $20K, $1 million, whatever it may be? Your sales leaders for your organization, you're not going to look for somebody who's sold exclusively 7-figure deals to go ahead and help you lead a transactional sales organization in which your average sales cycle is 45 days. The last thing for me though, Alex, and just coming back into this is industry. I think industry could be a really strong signal for a couple key industries. If you're in medical devices as an example, or the healthcare industry, or very science driven or engineering driven industry, your experience, your domain experience is absolutely valid and important there. But other things such as SaaS, it may not be as meaningful, right? So if you're selling software sales, that might be just fine as an example. So that's the other thing I'd be looking at is how similar of industries have they sold in? And personally, I tend to weight that less unless you're in a highly niche industry. So that's where I'm coming from as far as trying to find the best fit.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think how those two things tie together, an honest assessment of what you need, and then making sure that the experience matches it. You and I talk about this a lot as it pertains to an aspirational hire, as we call them. It's hiring the person that worked in Fortune 500. It's hiring the person that went and got their MBA from Harvard. It's because they went to a company that was acquired or IPO'd, but you're not on that path or not on that path yet. You end up hiring those people, and it causes a lot of pain in the execution, because where businesses of 50 people or 50,000 people share a lot of the same issues, problems, the way in which you are going to perform and succeed as a sales leader are not the same in those two cases.
No, God, no. That's no, that would be absolutely painful.
Oh, you and I have felt that pain. So building on that experience match, and I think Andrew puts it in a good way, that it's a match and it's a fit. It's not perfect. It's not ideal. You get close to it. You need to then make sure that people can iterate upon previous success that they had. You never want to see somebody that's just going to try to copy and paste a playbook from their last company or a previous company to your organization. They can take the core of it. They can take 70, 80, 90% in some cases. But if they're not adapting their process, their rules, their ways of succeeding to your business, that can be very detrimental. When it comes to this, you don't need to ascribe to the scientific method. When it comes to the scientific method that we all learned in school, it looks a little something like this. Here at FSP, Future Salespeople, we do consider ourselves scientists. It's one of our core values. We are scientists. In the interview process, you're not looking that people have memorized the scientific method. Instead, you want to see how they are thinking about how they would take and transform their previous experience to what they're going to do at your organization. They need to say these types of groups would start on these types of projects or try to optimize these things. You want to see that they're going to hold some things as control variables, because if they don't, they're never going to be able to tie it back to success. So really, you want to see not only that they're going to iterate, but in what ways they're going to iterate and who's going to be executing on that, and making sure that it feels right, making sure that that person is in a place where they have iterated in the past for success, and they're not just blowing smoke at you.
Iteration is a big theme, and a big thing in many ways. I'm trying to go to the next slide, and it actually connects in many ways to how else we start thinking about sales leaders, right? So I want to bridge this, because we are scientists is a fundamental belief that we have in our business, and what we believe all future salespeople should have. And part of that is a philosophy around sales, right? And for many people, when it comes to actually hiring sales leaders, philosophy for many executives who don't have a sales background or revenue background is something that's often overlooked, right? And it can be one of those simple things. And this didn't come out during our prep, and it's one of those things, shame on me, shame on you, Alex, of like philosophically, sales leader you're interviewing, are they a scientist? Do they believe in data? Do they believe in sales as an engineering process? If you do, and they don't, there's a huge problem. So how are you actually asking for these types of things, right? So to me, when it comes to trying to figure out, could somebody be a good fit? It really comes down to a few things, and it starts off with both history and philosophy, right? So philosophy can be a multitude of things, as I was mentioning. It could be things of, what's your approach to customer relationships, to growing the top of the funnel, to leadership? Are you a carrot or are you a stick individual? It could also be something as meaningful as coaching, right? And if you ask a sales leader, and this is one of those things that I swear, if you don't ask a sales leader what their philosophy to coaching is in an interview process, you shot yourself in the foot. Whether earlier on, if your Alex is build, scale, or increment, they still need to have a philosophy of coaching as an example, or at least that's my hot take, my soapbox, or my hill to stand on. And if they don't tell you what that is, and you can't help them and give them a prod of, tell me about your approach to coaching company knowledge, your approach to teaching functional skills, such as sales soft skills, sales process, or to things such as business acumen, such as customer knowledge, industry knowledge, things like that. If they don't have a philosophy or a history of such things, then how do you know that they would actually be a good fit? And so this is, I think, one of the most important things and important shifts that we are seeing and encouraging smart companies to do. And it's to start testing the philosophical and the historical in a real world application, Alex. And what this might look like is it could be a role play, it could be a work product. So as an example, if you are interviewing somebody and you want to test their approach to coaching, it could be something like a soft skill. Why not actually have them do a coaching session with one of your reps, modeling out a key skill that your sales reps need to have or a key challenge that they have? A work product could be something, if your organization needs something such as sales enablement materials, it could be, a playbook, messaging, whatever it may be. As long as you standardize that, you can go ahead and review all the work products from all of your applicants and do a quote portfolio review with your team to really start to decide who is the best fit for you based off their philosophy and ultimately all of your business needs that led you to this point.
Makes a lot of sense. I know the first sales interview I ever had, I was asked to sell a Sharpie to the VP of sales, and I've continued that since. I like it. I think it's great for entry-level sales, but I don't think that you ever escape that. Make sure that you are doing role playing across all of your hiring. It's going to help you get to the root of things.
Oh, I gotta do one shout out. I think one of the best hires that you and I have ever made as a team was a gentleman named Jake Jeffries. Mm-hmm. And this was Jake Jeffries, one of his very first true sales interviews. Do you remember what we had Jake Jeffries do?
Outbound dialing.
Yeah, he did 20 outbound dials. It was painful.
And he did great. He didn't pick up a single opportunity, and that wasn't the measure of success. It was picking up the phone and making it work and iterating and learning on the fly. He did great.
Hands down, one of the best fits we've ever worked with. So anywho, intent. Sorry.
So the final piece, at least in this very brief session on things to consider when you are hiring a new sales leader, is around breaking the mirror. And what I mean around breaking the mirror is the sales tactic of repeating what somebody says to demonstrate that you are being heard and that they are listening and they're adapting to what you're saying. The downside around hiring any sales professional that has experience is that they're good at selling, and you want them to be good at selling, but you don't want them to be good at selling themselves in the interview just to find out that actually they're not a good fit for the role. They don't have that experience. They don't have a way that they are going to iterate upon success. There's no real philosophy there. Essentially, they're just telling you what you want to hear. And one of the best ways to get around that is to try to break that mirroring tactic. So mirroring is, I tell you something, you tell it back to me in your own words. We both feel good about that. So how you get around this is that you introduce some sort of concept. That person is then going to iterate or kind of give you that concept back in your own words. Then you want to make a statement that contradicts that. Actually, you know what? Maybe it should be this way instead. You want that contradiction to be different enough that you're not just presenting new information to them and they realize that, oh, actually, that is the correct path. Really, what you're looking to see is that they are just going to mirror you again. And if they just mirror you again, it's likely that they're just telling you what you want to hear. They're just trying to sell you. Instead, you want them to adapt to what you told them. So in that adaptation, you want to see that they have received new information and maybe they're going to disagree with you. Maybe they're going to expand upon what you said in a new or an interesting way. And because it can be difficult to really tease apart whether it's a one-off instance of them mirroring you. You probably want to do this a couple of times. If they consistently mirror you and they consistently agree with you, even though you're starting to contradict yourself, it's likely that they're just selling you.
I love this so much. Do you want a yes person? Do you want somebody who can actually think on their feet? Do you want somebody who can challenge you and help you grow the business? I mean, that's what it ultimately comes down to. And I really appreciate the critical application of all of this. The one thing I find too, from a hiring manager or hiring executive's perspective is, what was it like to interact with them through all of this experience? When you actually contradicted, when you introduced that testing variable, what happened? What was their personality like? That itself is probably going to answer so many questions for you in your business about working with that individual. So I love this, Alex. Super simple, super powerful, and super relevant to anybody to apply in their interviewing process today. Killer.
And it's a great sales tactic. I don't mean to diminish that at all. Mirroring, framing, we'll cover it in additional content because it is so important, but you need to make sure that you're not getting sold. So making sure that you're breaking that mirror, as we like to call it, you can do it pretty simply. Just make sure they're getting down to the root of it all.
I think I was mirroring you there. I absolutely was in many ways. Well, friends, family, revenue professionals, we really appreciate your time and your attention. Do us a couple favors. Go ahead, like this video, subscribe to our channel, share it with your friends, share it with your mom, share it with your dad, share it with your partner. Doesn't really matter. Comment below. Let us know what challenges you're having in hiring sales leaders and what other topics or questions you'd like us to address in the next sales round robin. I'm Andrew. I'm
Alex. Thanks for the time, everyone.
Be well.